Number 3 is RoboCop. In terms of thinking what is my favorite and what is the action movie of the 80s, so that defines the 80s, for me, the one that the 80s, when I think of it, I'm just like, yes to all of it. RoboCop is the one that I'm just like, yeah, right there. That's your movie. Yeah. And I'm going to go quickly with the flaws of this movie. That I understand. The effects, some of the stop motion has not aged phenomenally well. Matte paintings haven't aged amazingly well. They're impressive still. They haven't aged well, and there's a few effects that haven't worked out too well. But, that's every movie from a certain point in time, so, you can kind of dismiss them. There's sometimes it's a little tough, but the things in this movie that make it number 3 for me are just the best things. The best things. What Peter Weller did to get ready for this role, I'm shocked. I'm really shocked, how much he cared so much about just being a RoboCop. Just think of that. RoboCop took serious consideration. Real choices had to be made to make this movie as perfect as it could be. That's a lot of the situations for a lot of these films. Action movies, when people think of action movies, they think of just simple explosions, violence, blah, 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 simple motivations and all that stuff. No. Action movies go beyond their simple concepts. The simple concept is what gets them greenlit and what gets them ready. RoboCop. Okay, Detroit is a crime haven and it's in the near future, and the only way to deal with it is we need a RoboCop. Robot cop. Great. Okay, great. RoboCop. Let's do it. That's the simple concept. But everything in between is what the depth is. What is so impactful. Again, Peter Weller went through classical acting training, mime training, dance training to figure out how to embody this machine. Holy cow. The cop that his partner that he works alongside with, she's one of those dated elements, okay, but she's still a good presence. She's a good partner to have. I want that cop by my side, someone who's going to care when I get blown apart in one of the most violent moments I've ever seen in my life. That is oh my gosh, this is such a great movie because Murphy, it's one of those things where it's yeah, Murphy dies in this movie. We know that. Murphy dies and becomes a RoboCop, but it's not just left to the side. He doesn't just die and then become a robot. He wants to explore his past humanity. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Yes! Yes to that! And he goes back and the visions, it affects him, but it only affects his mouth, but you realize, no, it's affecting him, his heart. He's a robot, he's got a heart, he's got a brain, he's got a soul, god damn it! He is RoboCop, and he deserves to figure out who he was. I love also the people who make RoboCop, the people who create him, and they really want to make the city feel good, and they want the city to feel good, and they want the city to be safe and to be a place where they don't only just profit, but they also can save the city. And then there's some people that are just looking to profit. And they're not thinking through. They're cutting through corners. And they're going to stop the competition. They're going to smoke them out. Gross. They want the competition to be thrown out. And it's no, you can't do that. But gosh darn it, we're just going to... I gotta settle down. This movie is amazing. I love it. I love it so much. And I think what really gets me with this is the violence. And the satire in this movie. The satire is so funny. The commercials that run through. Nukem, the game. It's perfect. I'd buy that for $1. Love it. And I love so much the squibs in this movie. The violence. When I think of action films and I think of just the joy they bring to me, RoboCop is the first one I think of when it's just the pure joy of movies in the action genre. Oh, it's so good. Number 2 is Terminator 2 Judgment Day. This was the action movie of my childhood. My dad introduced me to this film when I was pretty young, and it was so impactful on me. I loved it. It's a quotable movie for me. It's one of those films where I remember everything from it. All of the events that take place, all of the iconography of this film. I just remember seeing Arnold Schwarzenegger go to the bar and asks for the biker's clothes, his boots, and his motorcycle. I remember those things. I remember Robert Patrick. I remember the ending, and I remember it having that impact on me. And seeing it again recently, I realized that everything in this movie is really impressive. Because I was thinking of it in the context also of a sequel to the original. And that's one of the reasons why I appreciate it so much, because I saw the first film not when I was younger, but I saw it around the time when I was getting serious about movie reviews and movie analysis. And the first movie was very underwhelming for me. I was impressed by it when it came to a few sequences, when it came to showing the Terminator, like the exoskeleton, when we see the police shootout scene. But I was really underwhelmed by it. And I think that the sequel expands on the original film in a tremendous way, with one key thing that I'll get into right away. The things that I love about this movie is that there's such a big ambiguity in the beginning for who the real bad guy is. Arnold Schwarzenegger was fine as just this big, hulking mountain of an object. But Robert Patrick, in my opinion, is a much more superior villain in this franchise, not just because he's liquid metal, but because he's playing menacing very well. My favorite moment with the Terminator and with the T-1000 is when they are going down the hallway in the mall, and John is caught in between the two of them, and he sees Arnold Schwarzenegger walking up, and he throws the roses out of the box, and he shows the shotgun, and just the focus in both Arnold Schwarzenegger and Robert Patrick, but they're both showing that they're focusing. But to me, Arnold is just kind of like, I'm Arnold Schwarzenegger focusing on John Connor. Robert Patrick is really playing this robot very well. And his focus is so menacing, and I don't know, it has some kind of effect that Arnold just doesn't have as much when you remove his sunglasses. When you take those away from him, it's kind of like, he's still, like, I can still tell that he's that big hulking mass from the first film. But Robert Patrick is different. He gives a much more chilling, eerie performance. And it's not just because, you know, he's in a cop outfit and he's, like, trying to kill this boy. And it's not because he kills the other ways he kills other people. I think it's genuinely his presence. He seems like a normal person. His reactions when he gets shot are like normal people reactions, minus the metal. I really like John Connor in this movie. I can believe that this kid, in this movie in particular, becomes the man that we see at the opening of the film. The experiences that he's gone through, he will transform into this man if the world goes to hell. And there's the chance that it won't. I love how this ending gives us a feeling of tragedy, but also a feeling of hope that this story has ended and concluded. Despite all the other sequels afterwards, I feel like this movie is how it should have ended. I feel like it's a perfect cap to it because it allows for this story to feel hopeful and expand maybe what could possibly happen outside of this. And I don't think a lot of the sequels have done that ending justice. But this movie got it. It got it right on the nose. And it knew how to create genuine emotions with the characters between each person. The transformations are phenomenal. In particular, the one big transformation, and the reason that this is number 2 on my list, this is the reason. Linda Hamilton. She's the biggest reason why I think this movie is far beyond the original, because I don't care about her character in the original. She's what she needs to be. She's just the woman who is going to bring about the future savior of the world. And I'm like, okay. And she's not really interesting. Linda Hamilton is fine in the performance, but it's nothing great. And the ending is good for that character. Like, she has to face off against this mass, and I'm like, okay, that works for that film. But I don't think of that performance and think, that really was, I really believe in Sarah Connor. Like, if that was the only film that came out, I wouldn't have cared. I can't think of a single scene in this movie where Linda Hamilton does not mesmerize me, does not give her all, does not grab my attention. As much as this movie is trying to focus on saving John, I feel like this is her story. She is the person I focus on the most, because she becomes... There are so many scenes in this movie that I can just point to and say, excellent. The moment where she is just sitting at the table, in the picnic table, when they're going to collect guns, and she's just etching something in the table, and it's just... That could be just a throwaway moment, but Linda Hamilton does such a good job at just playing this person who is very just kind of like having a moment of rest, but can't rest because she feels that there is no fate as it shows on the table. It could have been so cheesy, but she plays it as if, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize I was doing this, but it's so in my subconscious. I need to do something about this. And when she believes that she needs to change the point of the future by becoming this killing machine and going after Miles Dyson, it is such a chilling moment, because it's like she has become the thing that was trying to kill her in the first movie. She has become her own destroyer. And when she doesn't kill Dyson, it's not the fact that, oh, I can't kill this person. It's the fact that, oh my God, what am I doing? What have I become? She's transformed into something that is so distant from her old self. When she is shaking the fence and she looks at her younger self, they are not the same person. Yes, it's the same actress, but it is not the same person. You can tell. When she escapes the psych ward, it's amazing moments when she breaks the psychiatrist's arm and then gets the needle of the poison substance and puts it right to his neck. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm watching a crazy, hardened woman. And when she sees the Terminator come out of the elevator, I feel her fear. She is terrified. But the best performance, and the thing that gives me chills whenever I see this movie, is when she is watching herself on the television screen. For some reason, there is something that good actors go through in those moments when they're witnessing their own performance. Linda Hamilton watching herself is captivating. She's looking at it, and it's like, that's what she believes. Like, that's who she is right there. That's what she's become. But she's looking at it like, okay, how do I get out of this now? He's trying to say, this is what I am, and now, well, I can maybe play this up. And one thing that I've learned I was taught in acting school to approach a scene or approach moments is to endow somebody with some kind of title or some kind of position. Like, you're my prisoner. You're my mother. You're my gardener. You're my astronaut. Like, you give somebody some kind of endowment, and then your actions will respond to that. You will make some kind of subconscious change in yourself and how you approach things based on what the status of another person is. And at the beginning of this scene, when she's talking to the psychiatrist after watching herself, the first thing I see, and it's brilliant that just comes across, it feels like she's saying in the endowment, you're my master. And she has to play around that and has to try to like flirt, but not flirt. She has to try to show that she's capable of being rehabilitated. It's just an amazing performance, and I think it is one of the best performances that came out of the 90s of all the films I've seen, and it's a staple of great acting in action films. Number 1 on my list was one that I was juggling with for a while. I mean, I love Terminator 2, don't get me wrong. There are a few dated elements, but I can get past those when I watch that film. But this is the most recent film I watched. I just watched it yesterday, trying to make up this list to decide what I wanted to do. And the minute this movie started up, I was ready for it. It was amazing. It's Mad Max Fury Road. I've seen the first 2 Mad Max movies with Mel Gibson, and I can honestly say that those movies have moments. They have really great moments in them, but neither one of them has sat with me to its entirety. Similar with a lot of other action movies. Like, I remember moments from a lot of the action movies, even ones that are on my list. I don't have parts where it's like the entire film just sat with me, and it was like a journey and an experience that I just witnessed. Like, it was something that, I was watching it, and then, a lot of things I remember and I appreciate, but with exception to Mad Max Fury Road, no other film gave me that full-on just experience with the movie. I felt like the world, this is one of those movies where the world feels like a character. And everything in this film has a purpose. Not just in terms of like giving backstory, but in terms of the props being used. They need to be in this movie. The bolt cutters are a huge one, where you think they're only used once. They only have one purpose, and then they use them consistently throughout the film. It's the same with the guns. It's the same with the outfits that every character wears. There's a reason they're wearing those outfits the way they're wearing them. The chastity belts that the wives have to wear, that Immortan Joe gives them. The design of the war boys. Immortan Joe's outfit as well. It's a giant suit, and what I love so much, he is the villain of this movie, but he is a sympathetic villain in terms of understanding his plight, in terms of what he has to live with just his physical body. Like, he's so sickly. And what's so interesting is that introduction of his character, no words are spoken, but you see so much and you understand this character so just immediately, and then we just propel right into the film and we understand the actions that he takes, and we understand why he is so dangerous, because he is going to die. We don't know when, but probably soon, and the need for an heir is almost immediate. And so we understand where the antagonist is coming from, and we understand where the wives are coming from to get away from that kind of person, because it's a terrible kingdom to be in. And this movie won Best Production Design at the Oscars in 2015, and I was a little bit like, really? And then I realized all the cars are made from other cars and other parts. Like, they're all created. None of them is like CGI. It's those cars exist. I watched the Blu-ray special features seeing them assemble these cars, and I was shocked. And this is another thing with the idea of everything has a purpose. Like, there's a skull little side thing on the war rig that's just, it could be just another design. But when Max and Furiosa are fighting after the big sandstorm, Furiosa punches it, and there's a gun hidden in there. So your brain just starts going, oh my gosh, this entire world is one of violence and one of secrets, and now we're unveiling them, and now we can't trust everything, and then everything that is laid out on these vehicles has a purpose to it, and we can believe that they have the tools required, because, like, even if we don't see a tool, even though this movie does a great job at showing us every little detail, even if we don't see it, we can believe that it exists there. If somebody pulled out a wrench all of a sudden, like the file, they pull out a file to get the muzzle off of Mask, we believe that's there because they would need a file. Like, they trust the audience so much to just kind of believe that this world exists, but they also know that they can't cheat the audience. The filmmakers need to make sure that the world feels real. The introduction is fantastic. I love Tom Hardy in this movie, even though he's not the predominant figure. Even though it's called Mad Max, he's not the predominant character. It's more Furiosa's story. He still plays a pivotal role in this movie, and the things he goes through are shocking. Like, he goes through, in the beginning of this film, so much suffering. Like, he's tattooed with all of his info on his back, and he's about to be branded. And he's used as a blood bag for a war boy to go into battle and strung up to the front of the car. Like, those images are set with me, and I remember them, even though that Tom Hardy is such a little part of this. Everything about this movie. I'll talk about it for like an hour probably, and it's one of those films where I adore it, and I adore that movies like this can be made today. This is a very recent film, but I know it's going to be a classic. The dialogue is engaging and purposeful. Nothing feels wasted. The action is lively, but also doesn't become too much for you to comprehend. Like, everything in this movie sets with you, and you understand, oh my gosh, I know where this is going. I see who's winning, who's losing, where everything is, what the current problem is, and what the overarching problem is in the action scene. Like, the final chase scene, it's like, okay, I understand that there is all these rigs in the background and all these cars in the back, but I also understand what the current issue is. We have the entire armada, but the current issue is somebody is on the rig, we gotta take them out. Oh, somebody else gets there. Oh, somebody's on our left, somebody's on our right. We know this, and we're never like, wait, where did that come from? That doesn't make sense. Because the filmmakers want to make an experience that people will remember and not feel bogged down in. And they won't be confused, and they won't feel jarred. And the last thing I'll say about this movie, it's a great blend of practical effects and CGI effects. And editing, too. Especially when it comes to the color. Like, the explosions in this movie are not... They don't feel like real explosions, but they are. The colors are just so much more vibrant, which is the perfect way to capture it. And that sandstorm, I have never been in awe of CGI the same way I have been when I saw that scene, that sandstorm moment. Like, the movie Avatar didn't do anything for me. When I look at the world, I'm like, nowadays I'm like, okay, great. But that sandstorm scene is just breathtaking, as is the entire film. Well, ladies and gentlemen, those are my favorite action films of all time. Please, in the comments down below, let me know what you think of this list, and let me know also what you think about these films, because I really love hearing what people have to say about these movies. Movies that I love, and hearing what people have to say about them. If it's new information, if it's old things that, is common knowledge, but you just want to gush over it. If you have anything to say, please share it down in the comments and, have some kind of discussion about this. And if somebody doesn't like one of these movies, that's totally fine. I understand. I have a very particular taste when it comes to action films. But I'm just really glad I got to share this list with you guys. So thank you all so much. Like, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. And as always, take care.